Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Daniel.
Hey, Sam. Long time no see.
Yeah, I know.
Paths have been crossing a lot these last couple of weeks.
You bet.
Well, if y'all are able, we would love to see your wonderful faces this morning. If you'd like to turn your cameras on, it is 2 minutes after 9, so we are going to go ahead and get started. We've got a full agenda today and really exciting guest speaker. Hey there, hey Courtney. See the Plotner family's joining us from Edisto. That's awesome. We're very grateful for our guest speaker today. GP McLeer has over a decade of nonprofit and government experience in South Carolina, ranging from local government work, statewide alliances, and regional coalitions. He spent over 10 years in the creative sector, advocating for stronger policy and funding for the arts and arts education. Currently, he works in the transportation sector, advancing mobility solutions for communities across a 10-county region. Elected in 2019, GP also serves as mayor of Fountain Inn, South Carolina. He's been involved with numerous boards and advisory councils at every level, and currently sits on the board of the Association of South Carolina Mayors, Keep Lawrence County Beautiful, the Municipal Association of South Carolina's Legislative Committee, and the Greenville-Pickens Area Transportation Studies Policy Committee. With a passion for process and policy, GP gets excited about helping clients learn how to strengthen their organization's capacity for advocacy, communication, and governance. GP was born and raised in South Carolina and lives in Fountain Inn with his wife, Taylor, their daughter, Albie James, and one dog, Mavis, and a cat, Pippa. For those of you that are also members of Together SC, you will recognize GP from the Advocacy Allies team there, and he, along with his co-founder, Meredith, are running the Pecan PR firm now, and he's with us this morning to talk about one of our most requested and sought-after issues of ethical storytelling and communication practices, particularly as we continue our work with the blind and visually impaired community. So GP, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you.
Thanks, Daniel. I need to write a shorter bio. But it's good to be with you all today. I won't take up too much of your time. You guys have a big agenda. So I got a short slide deck for you that we've put together based on some information that Daniel gave us. And so I hope I'm able to cover what I think you guys have been discussing and give at least a starting point for conversation. And, you know, if there's future need, we're happy to help facilitate that either one-on-one or as an alliance. So hopefully this is a good starting place for y'all on this very important topic. So I'll share my screen, and just so you know, you can feel free to interject with questions. I may not catch the chat right away, so feel free to just unmute and yell. That's fine. And I'll also pause for questions at the end. And I can make this slide deck available to Daniel too at the end of everything as well. So I'll go ahead and get started. I need to do this. There we go. We have, sorry, there we go. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Pecan PR, just so you guys know what we do. Our leadership team, as Daniel said, is myself, GP McLeer, my co-founder, Meredith McNeely. We also have two other folks who help us out with various projects. My wife, Taylor, actually helps us with some of our event planning work. And then we also have a colleague, Walker Smith, who is a lot of congressional experience and state house experience, who helps one of our clients with their advocacy work. We've got experience in nonprofit advocacy, communications, you name it, we've probably got experience in it. We are nonprofit focused and South Carolina centric. And we currently have active clients in nonprofit associations, housing, homelessness, early childhood, as well as libraries across the state. And that's a little bit about our background. Our approach to public relations is best summarized by my mother and her advice growing up of it's not what you say, it's how you say it. There is no wrong way to pronounce our company's name either, by the way, and that's on purpose. Our feeling is that paying attention to how you say things and the audience that you're saying it to is sometimes more important than the message itself. Especially as long as your message is solid and it's based on your mission and what you value most, then the next best thing to focus on is how you talk about those things. So this fits in very well with today's conversation. So we're going to dive into talking a little bit about ethical communication and storytelling. And Daniel gave me a little bit of background on where you guys are coming from and the audiences that you serve, the clients you serve across the state. So thank you for your important work and your various organizations' mission. And we know that it's extremely important to figure out, to tell your story so that people understand the needs of your clients and therefore support your organization and its work, but that you also deal with some sensitive topics or situations, and we want to be sure we can help you straddle that line and at least have a starting place to begin that thought process. So here we go. First, there's the bare basics. You have to define the ethics for your organization and your field. There's a textbook definition for most industries about what ethics is. As an elected official myself, we have it in state law pretty well of what ethical behavior is. There may be a code of conduct for your industry or for industries like yours that you can lean on. So starting there is an important place, but there's also other elements to ethics. Ethics is, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, if it's unethical, it looks unethical, it acts unethical, it also might be unethical. And the also famous quote about other types of content, you can't maybe describe it, but you know it when you see it. That is also very true for ethics. A lot of ethics is perception. If it's not textbook definition, it's a lot of perception. And that becomes really hard to work against or work with because that perception is subjective and based on whichever audience happens to see that message. It's maybe not even be the audience that you targeted. And so having some definitions are important, and at least an understanding for your organization or your industry of what it may be on paper, but what does it look like at times too? That is important for you to define. And then also part of this is after you kind of think through that, does your organization need formal guidance? Is this topic becoming so prevalent in your work every day that and being handled by a number of people in your organization that happen to participate in the communications or storytelling elements, that maybe there is need for formal guidance and some document that at least gives staff, for all intents and purposes, cover with your boards, or boards clear expectations on how staff is going to talk about things and how they're going to communicate. And so if there's a lot of ambiguity in your first part of your definitions and how things look, and if there's ambiguity in those conversations, that is something to consider of adopting your own, whether it's a code of conduct or it's a internal communications document. And we'll get through kind of what those elements maybe could be in the next few slides, but that's always a safe step to take if you have any questions for your organization. You also may want that in place if you are about to embark on a major communications campaign that has a lot of elements that has sparked this conversation that may also give you the backing with clients and or other audience members that you did this based on a document as opposed to just somebody came up with it in a room. So the next thing that we always like to tell folks when they're talking about communications and how they talk to people is assessing your data. What makes up the stories that you like to tell? There's a lot of different ways to think about this, but we like to think about it through a lens of what matters to you as an organization? What are you being held up against as your performance metrics? What are your key performance indicators that you and your organization are monitoring? Because that's going to dictate what stories matter to you. And you're going to want to monitor the stories you tell based against that. What do you track? What is the data that you actually do have to back you up on the stories that you tell and the impacts that you have? If you're going to have a message that, oxygen is good for you, then we need to have evidence, hopefully, to back that up. And how are we tracking that? So, and then also who controls that data and who has access to it? Not for any sort of proprietary issues, but mostly because of who's going to be telling your story. The folks who tell your story may need some level of access or overview on what all of this data is so that they are comfortable defending that stance or those communication pieces because it's rooted in truth. And that's important to kind of think through, is who has access to that data. And this leads right into this, so this idea of internal versus external communications, because based on the data that you collect and that you monitor, the way you talk about your work inside the office may be different than how you talk about it in the public. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In a lot of ways, sometimes that has to be the case. But it's important as an organization to sit down and think through, what is the difference in how we talk about things, and why do those differences, why are they there? So how do you normally talk about your stories? And for you guys internally, what moves your needle inside your office? Because also, when you think about external stories, the ones that really move your needle may be great ones that you haven't really told yet. And they may require some ethical lenses to look at, because, like I said, everything inside your office may be different than what you talk about outside. So, but how do you normally talk about things in your office, in your boardroom, at a public meeting? What are the differences there? And more importantly, why do those differences exist? That may in itself could give you guidance on what do we mean when we talk about ethical storytelling for ourselves. We may already be doing it in a lot of ways. We just haven't talked about it in this capacity of who are we already talking to, and why aren't we talking about this performance measure that we measure internally, that we really pride ourselves in, that maybe isn't front page headline, but we know is very important? Why aren't we talking about that to the public? Is there an ethical reason for it? Should there be one? And sort of, there's no wrong answer to that based on the data point. That's something you have to consider when you look at the stories you're telling to the public and that you want to tell. There's also very important to know your people. You can't expect to be ethical if there's not an understanding amongst your people of what that is. I'll dig this. The next slide goes is make that sentence make a lot more sense now that I said it out loud. I wrote it and it made sense. Saying it out loud, a little weird. But there is, you can't just tell a message without knowing it's going to be effective. And that's basic communications 101. But with, if you're thinking about, is the content of the story and how we craft it, are we doing it in an ethical way? And is the story itself ethical to talk about? Got to understand your audiences. You have to understand your direct clients, the folks whose stories you might be telling. Do they have a clear expectation of what is going to be shared when they interact with you? Do they know, whether it's, depending on the situations that you all deal with in real time, is it something that needs to be talked about up front? Is it something that needs to be talked about in the moment when something like that happens, or after the fact, or whatever have you? At what point are your clients being told that, hey, the work that we're doing with you is really important to tell, and we'd like to tell it? So is that ever shared with them? Is there clarity around what that data is? Do they even know that you're collecting all this stuff too? Is fair in this day and age of clarity that, hey, just so you know, all of these stats that we're asking you for, we're going to measure, and we measure our performance based on these as well. And then also just casual conversations about what are those folks comfortable sharing? So, storytelling communications is kind of broad, but if you're talking about the biggest storytelling, let's say you do a commercial, that's just a good way to think about it. What are folks comfortable of their stories sharing with the broader audience? And again, do they expect that to happen? But also, you don't have to ask them directly. It's also interesting to ask your clients, hey, if we were to do something and if we totally anonymized it, what would you feel comfortable sharing? We're thinking about in 2 years, we're gonna do a rebrand and we want to tell that story about our everything. We want to be able to share these stories. What stories are you comfortable sharing, or do you think others would be comfortable sharing? So knowing your direct clients is important in that process. There's also knowing, of course, your audiences. And first bullet point is exactly the same. What do they expect you to share? Over the course of your communications so far, what have been the things that you have shared with them? And can they expect that same thing? If you're going to change up your messaging in a big way out of concern that maybe things haven't been shared the correct way previously, or you're about to dive into new data that you're now comfortable sharing, I think there's a conversation we had about, hey, are we leading them down that path for that data to be relevant to them? Do they even know what this stuff means? And then also, what's been working is, of course, was something we all look at, but I think really importantly is what's been missing so far. Because those do offer opportunities. I have a feeling that this conversation has come about because there are opportunities to really demonstrate impact, but they require messaging that maybe hits close to home for a lot of people. And if that's been missing, that is valuable to tell your audience, but you just have to, if you've got the buy-in from your direct clients, then you've got a greater chance of success in that endeavor. All right. Yeah. Then choosing your tone. So if you've gone through all of these things, these steps so far, at some point you have to make a choice about the tone of the communication that you're going to take around these data points. And it's important to define how you talk about things. It's important to talk about your tone as a brand, as an organization. It doesn't have to be a public-facing type of statement or anything like that. At least a conversation, but ideally something written down so that all staff can get behind it. But this idea of how are we going to talk about things? How are our stories going to resonate? Is our intention to have some really passionate stories that we want to tell, and therefore we're going to have to get real for a little bit with our storytelling, and that's okay. That's intentional. Or hey, we're going to go data driven. We're going to go in a different route this time around. Just having that encapsulated in some sort of way, whether that's a document or at least a meeting with folks, that's the next step, because that's going to provide additional guardrails. If you don't have a hard policy, that's going to help provide additional guardrails, not just what we do in terms of ethics, but how are we going to follow this in our tone? Is it abundantly clear? This tone is also critical. And for how you actually practice this, it's much like every plan that we've all ever done. It's only good if it's off the shelf. Is it consistent? Are you doing this? How is this tone going to be consistent throughout? In your social media posts and your email newsletters, how are you making sure that this tone is staying consistent? And then making sure also it's everywhere, that it isn't just, I feel like with these types of conversations, you have to, it's very jarring. It can be jarring to some folks to have a different tone in different places. And so I think, being sure that, not that it's just consistent, like, hey, we're doing this newsletter and it needs to be like this all the time, but hey, is our social doing this way? When you walk into our office, are you feeling that tone? And thinking through how do people experience that messaging? That's part of this process. And And then the story itself, expected transparency is expected. So what do I mean by this? If folks expect so let me see, make sure I got, yeah, okay. I'm making sure I had the next slide was exactly what I thought it was. At the end of the day, your stories are all rooted in some form of truth, right? And that's the goal. And that truth, as we've talked about earlier, has a different lens to it. You know, are we talking about a passionate truth about the story of an individual and what they are doing? Is it data driven? So are those performance metrics that we're watching? A, are we getting the right data? B, are they normal for people to understand and like industry standards, stuff like that? But if you leaning into transparency, I think is always a really great concept when it comes to communication, because it creates this level of expected transparency that people are going to expect that what you tell them is true and is reliable and is appropriate. And so if you can build through your tone and through all of your messaging, and when your conversations about what data and stories you're going to tell that are within your ethical boundaries, there's going to be that level of transparency that I think will build a lot of trust over time. And that will become expected as well. So you actually set the bar for yourself when you do this as well. And then you may be judged on how well you're getting to that bar. And that's okay. I think that's a great bar to be measured at personally. And the story itself too, it's not just about truth. In my opinion, there's three things an effective communications focus on. One is it's either going to be focused on your impact. So here's my organization. We have done this. We have made tremendous strides in XYZ, which is why either we want to you can help us let us serve you. You know, it could be donate some money to us, work with us, or what have you. That your impact is the story. And that's gonna, if you go backwards from that into the ethics, then you're talking about what data are we collecting that we want to share, and are we collecting that data ethically, and people are expected that data is going to be shared. You go back up the tree, that's what you get. The other type of story I feel like is the issue. It's that idea that the best marketing talks about the problem, not necessarily the solution all the time. We'll get to that second because there's always exceptions to that, but that the issue at hand of like, hey, we're trying really hard to solve this problem that somebody is having. And talking about the problem is another way of storytelling that does touch on ethics, because now you have to talk about that problem. And the people that you work with are experiencing these problems. And so that requires a level of personal touch and information that you have to balance through this. And then there's also the solution itself, which is a valid storytelling tool of here's what we have developed that works. It's not about us as an organization, and that's why it's different than impact. It's not, it could be still your solution, but hey, this is the solution we found. It is, wraparound services for somebody, or, those types of things. Focusing on the story around the solution is an effective way of storytelling. When you throw an ethical lens on it, though, you've got to consider your, how, when you talk about the solution and how it's, who's been using that solution, that's a unique case that individual is experiencing. And so you've got to talk about that individual maybe. So those are the three ways I think the stories can still have a lasting result for organizations if they focus on impact, the issue at hand, or the solution that's been created for that issue. Those are the three sort of buckets that we talk about a lot. And then, this is a little bit of summary, and then I'll open it up for any questions. These are what we just went through are essentially different levels of filters, in my opinion. When you sit down in a room and you're talking about ethical communication, just go through these filters. Define, or do you have defined guardrail? Do you understand your data? How are you talking about things internally versus externally, and why do those differences exist? And is there any crossover that needs to be considered? Knowing the people that you're talking about and talking to, and making sure you have a clear and focused tone. that you're focusing on one element of this, and that's why that's why this story is important, and that's why we have followed this ethical pathway to this story, is because we're focusing on our impact, we're focusing on the issue, or we're focusing on the solution, and making sure that it's a clear tone, consistent, and that it's everywhere in your organization, and that everyone can understand it. That is essentially 6 filters that you can look at when sitting down with your staff or sitting down with your colleagues as an alliance and talking through each of those 6 things. We think can help you better articulate ethical storytelling and communications, and it's a way to frame the conversation so that you come up with the best solution for your organization or your alliance. Obviously, shameless plug, we are happy to help do that at Pecan PR, whether that's planning communication, doing surveys with your folks to get some of this data, working with your board and senior staff on policy development and training folks on that policy at the board and staff level. If there's sometimes in a lot of these worlds, it's sometimes advocacy driven, where a lot of nonprofits nowadays are focused on systems change. Politics has drifted into missions in a lot of ways. And so we are helping organizations navigate that kind of communication strategy. And then, of course, if you've got events, we help with that. Not really related to ethical communications necessarily, but we do help with that. So at that point, I've got at least 2 minutes on the agenda. I want to thank you all for having me. And Daniel, I can turn it over to you if there are any questions or anything you want me to dive in on.
Yeah, absolutely. GP, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I can tell you just from some of the comments that we've been getting as you've been doing the presentation, your message is resonating with our group, and we're getting a lot of affirmation that this is helpful and timely. So we're really grateful for your time and expertise in this area. One of the reasons we wanted to bring you into this group was precisely how you closed up there was, and the question that you opened with, does your organization need formal guidance? And Pecan PR is certainly a phenomenal resource that our members can avail themselves of to work with you and Meredith on these issues on a more personalized and ongoing basis. And we'll definitely include a link to pecanpr.com in our follow-up with this so folks can quickly get in touch with GP. But I'd love to just open this up to folks. This is your meeting as Palmetto Vision Alliance members. So you've got GP, and we would love for you to take some time to ask questions and lean in on any of these topics.
I did perfect. So.
Just the right amount of information. Perfect.
I will send Daniel the slides, so you're free to share those, Daniel, with the meeting recaps. And if I can ever be of any help, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely, GP. Any final questions or comments for GP before we turn him loose? All right, well, GP, thank you so much again. This was really helpful, and we did get lots of affirming comments through email and through conversation as you were going through this. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Thank you, Daniel.
Very. Thank you.
Thank you. All have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Awesome. Well, we will transition now. I know that was one of the pressing topics that we wanted to address as a group this year. So I hope that the recording from this will be helpful for folks, not just those that are here, but those that might be listening to this down the road. And one of the things, again, that GP mentions that I think is helpful for our values and our emphasis at Palmetto Vision Alliance is who controls the data. Earlier this year, we heard from the big data project for the new information on the prevalence of blindness and vision loss in South Carolina. And we're committed to making sure that that data is accessible and available to us as members as we help to network and coordinate and just continue working together to strengthen eye care all across South Carolina. So as we do that, we have some new members with us today. I'm going a little bit out of order, I see, from the agenda, but we'd love to recognize two new members that have joined us and one new representative from an existing member. We've had Foundation Fighting Blindness and Walton Options both join the Palmetto Vision Alliance since our last meeting. Welcome to both of those groups. Cindy is with us this morning from Walton Options. And Cindy, if you would like, we would love for you to say a few words if you want about Walton Options, just to join and get connected to the group. We're so excited that y'all are with us, that y'all are here. All right. Well, the contact information for those folks at Foundation Fighting Blindness and Walton Options will be in the new contact list that's on the Palmetto Vision Alliance OneDrive. So do feel free to reach out to those new members and welcome them. And with that, we will transition to new business. We didn't get as much time to really dive into this at our last meeting because of the conversation on the website, but I wanted to revisit the Palmetto Vision Alliance working groups a little bit. We've identified three areas: strategic planning, advocacy, and community outreach. We really are looking for individuals that would be willing to step up and lead those working groups. We'd love for those working groups to meet at least once in between our quarterly meetings and start diving deeper into those areas for ways that we can put a more comprehensive strategic plan for eye care in South Carolina together, for ways we can pursue an advocacy agenda for those that are interested in stepping into that space, and also for community outreach, for ways that we can continue engaging those in the communities that we serve. So we want those working groups to be additional resources and capacity building for our coalition. And we really, in order for that to happen, we need some folks to step up and assist with leading those. So just wanted to open it up for conversation. If anyone is feeling led or interested in pursuing either membership in any of those working groups or leadership in any of those working groups.
Daniel,
Yes.
it's Gretchen.
Hey,
And
Gretchen.
I'm not sure that I want to lead on my own the community outreach piece, but I do feel like that's something that, it matches my passion. And, I could without a doubt reach out to the South Carolina Association of Free Clinics and talk to them about what y'all do in conjunction with us concerning eyes. And my daughter does the social media and graphic design for the clinic and did it for the little wrap card that you and I did. And I certainly could perhaps be able to press her into service to maybe make some community outreach graphics that everybody could put on their social media and that kind of thing. If that makes me a leader, maybe, but I hesitate to commit to, every quarter being able to present something, but I would love to work with you and, be a bridge for her if you need that kind of help.
Absolutely, Gretchen. That sounds awful leader-esque to me. That's I don't know what else we'd be looking for in a leader. So yes, that would be wonderful to all of the above. I know Virginia Ann is a member of this group as well. So the Free Clinic Association is aware of us, but we certainly want to see more free clinics like Smith Medical Clinic and the Shifa Clinic that are both with us this morning. We want to see more from those communities represented and engaging with us throughout the year. So please do.
There are a couple more along the coast that are similar in size to us and that I am in contact with really regularly. So I can very easily reach out to them and see if they'd be interested.
Wonderful.
I would be interested in joining that committee as well, but leading a few other committees right now, so can't commit at this moment to lead a committee.
Absolutely. That is okay, Taryn. Just getting more folks involved, many hands make light work. So that will be a big help.
and I'm willing to help out on the advocate side.
Okay.
That component, not leading, but definitely helping.
Understood. Understood.
All right.
Daniel, this is Courtney. I'm willing to help on the advocacy side too, just as long as it doesn't become a conflict with the advocacy we're doing. But again, I don't have time to lead it. This year is a very busy year, but I'm happy to help.
Okay. Fantastic, Courtney. That sounds great. Any other volunteers or interests for either membership or leadership in any of these working groups?
Daniel, this is Tammy Wallace. I would be happy to be part of the community outreach group.
Okay, wonderful, Tammy. Oh, and Tammy, I apologize. I hinted at it with the introduction of new members, but Tammy is with the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, and we're delighted to have Tammy with us again for representing that organization. Thank you so much for being with us, Tammy.
Yes, thank you. My second meeting.
This is exciting, particularly on the community outreach front. We're starting to reach a critical mass point. Awesome, Catherine, thank you so much. That would be great. We'll plug you in there too. All right, any other interest or volunteers? Awesome. Thank you all for stepping up, and this is exciting to see some more capacity being built in each of these groups. So stay tuned. We will keep the momentum going from that between now and our next quarterly meeting, which will be in October. So with that, we're a little bit ahead of time in our agenda now, which will leave more time for our regular discussion space, where this is your opportunity to share needs that you have, to share success stories that we can celebrate with you, or just any additional questions or resources that you could use to better do your work. So we'll just open it up for anybody. If you've got a promotion at your organization that you want to share with us, or anything that we can do to assist, please feel free to chime in.
Daniel, this is Courtney again.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we've said anything in front of this big group because it's been such a wild summer, but ABVI and TVI have merged, and we are doing statewide children and adult services, which is really, really exciting with Jeannie and I are all over the place. But it's really exciting, and we're excited to work with y'all during this process too.
Absolutely. I don't know that we have formally shared that with the group, Courtney. So thank you so much for putting that out. And we're so excited for ABVI and TVI both. This is really, really big news.
This is Jeannie. I'm stoked too.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to mention really quickly, I've been working diligently over the past 2 years on transportation. As you know, I've mentioned it a few times in our meetings. And I just wanted to let you know that I have built up a good repertoire with good rapport with the Council of Governors. So if you have any questions on updates on different things that they're planning and outside of what they are just releasing to the public as far as collecting information and statistics and things in that nature, I do have some updates, and I will have more actually by the end of this month. So just letting you know, if there's a need and if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to share what I know.
Ernie, that's fantastic. I know transportation is one of those topics that we discuss routinely that is a challenge for almost all of the individuals that we're working with and serving and encountering on a day-to-day basis. That might actually be, a worthwhile enough topic. If you have some substantial updates, would you be interested in sharing a more formal presentation at our October meeting about where we are in South Carolina with transportation, and maybe some things that are coming up on the horizon and ways that we could chime in to help those efforts?
Yeah, actually, I can do better than that. What I can do is I can speak to the people that's over the program and have them do a presentation if you would like me to reach out to them. Because I think it's really important. It's going to really directly affect our target audience. So I don't see it being an issue unless there was a scheduling issue for them not to be part.
That would be great. I know that would certainly be a topic that I would be interested in hearing more about, and I think
Okay.
that that would be very relevant for the rest of our group as well.
All right. Well, as a member of the advocate program, I will take care of that task. I'll reach out to them for you and let you know.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
One update that I will share from Lions Vision Services, we are gearing up. We do a fishing tournament for the blind and visually impaired on Lake Marion in the spring, and the winner of that tournament goes to the International Visually Impaired Fishing Tournament on the Outer Banks of North Carolina in mid-October. And this year, the winner of our tournament was Jim Jackson from the Columbia area. And he's very excited to be going up to the Outer Banks this October 15th through the 18th. There's some information on that event webpage on our website. They are always looking for additional volunteers. It's a huge event. It's the largest event of its kind in the world that they know of. There will be hundreds and hundreds of participants. We had folks from about a dozen states and Canada there last year that were competing in this tournament. And you know, there's never really a bad time to be at the Outer Banks either. So that's a fun trip all the way around. So if you're interested in volunteering or assisting with that, and want to come up the shore with us, we'd love to have you. There'll be information coming out about that in the next Palmetto Vision Alliance newsletter. All right, any other questions or updates or anything else for the good of the group? Courtney and Jeannie, do y'all have something formal written up that we could use to help promote y'all's merger this year? We would love to help celebrate that and just elevate that news in the community. Do y'all have something you could send?
We are working on that right now. We're working with sorry, my whole family's on the porch with me. We are working on kind of officially what that looks like. It'll be released in October as part of ABVI Awareness Month. So we have a little stuff, but really probably it'd be best if I got you the information closer to October.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be great. We'd love to help amplify that and just help celebrate the increased impact that y'all are having. That's awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, Daniel, speaking of October, I know our meeting isn't until our next meeting is after World Sight Day, and we did, I think we did a collective press release for World Sight Day last year. Are we doing that again this year?
Great question. We certainly can. I don't think we have put any formal plans together for that this year, but is that something that y'all would be interested in doing?
We can, I mean, we can from the
Mhm.
Lighthouse perspective, we can be part of that if necessary.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we can certainly put that together. And, you know, it can be, I like the idea of kind of an annual joint press release from everybody, just letting South Carolina know that we're here as a coalition, that we're meeting regularly and working together for increased impact. So, yeah, I can work on drafting something and sending that out. I'll try to get a draft circulated early enough that we can make tweaks or revisions if we need to, so folks can weigh in on that. All right. Well, not hearing anything else, I will give y'all back a few extra minutes of your day. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Again, our next meeting is Tuesday, October the 24th at 9 a.m. I will send out the calendar invite for that as soon as we get off of this meeting so that you'll have that on your calendar. And I know we have not been as consistent as I would like with our Palmetto Vision Alliance newsletter. We will have one sent out at the end of this week, capturing the recordings from the first 3 meetings of the year. So any additional announcements besides what's been shared today that y'all would like included in that, feel free to send it to me today or tomorrow, and we'll make sure we get that all packaged together to send out to y'all. And moving forward, we are working to be more consistent and diligent about getting those updates out on a monthly basis. So thank you all so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on October 24th. Have a great rest of your day.